You definitely need your glass. Okay, and we're live.
We are
Welcome.
live.
Yes, we are.
Cheers.
Cheers. What have you got in that very fancy glass?
Well, in this carefully handcrafted glass, I have premium H2O, otherwise known as water, because I don't drink. So I wanted to match you. I know you open with your whiskey, so I need to be as cool as you.
Well, there's water in here because it's just to purify the water.
Okay.
That's all.
So it's healthy, right?
Medicinal.
Cheers. Let's cheers. How do you cheers to the camera?
I know. Cheers. Well, cheers. I mean, the whole of Scotland can't be wrong, can they? Right?
No. We can't argue with the whole country, can we?
So we were in Melbourne there together at that conference. Just was like, what's that, nearly 4 months ago now, I guess, thinking. And I overheard a conversation there that you're from a large family. You're Malaysian, right?
Yes.
Okay, but you're from a large family.
Very large.
How large is large? I mean, I've got 5 children of my own and 3 stepchildren, so I often think I sound like I'm a Mormon, but but how many is many for you?
I've probably lost count, but I'm thinking around 16, 17 brothers and sisters. Yeah.
So just explain how the dynamics of that works with mothers and fathers. And
do we have enough time? Basically, my dad still doesn't own a TV, so that's why he has all these kids. And my youngest sibling is three or 4, and my youngest daughter is 3. So being pregnant at the same time as my stepmom is cool.
That's okay. Wow. So were you?
I was born in Perth, born and raised in Perth. Yeah.
Okay, but your folks, your father and mother, they still in?
So my mum lives in Perth, so she's Thai, and my dad lives in Malaysia, and he is Malay Japanese. So I'm a mongrel. I'm a mixture of everything. Born and raised in Australia.
So all the good bits put together, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fusion. You know, when you go to the restaurants and it's fusion. An Asian fusion. And then my husband is Mauritian German, so my girls are like even more mongrels, even prettier.
Yeah. So you did some work as a model, didn't you? Speaking of pretty, didn't you?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, when I was younger, back in my heyday.
When you were younger,
when I was younger.
Anyway, so when you were younger, right? Like last week.
No, 2 months ago, I was modeling. My elder sister was actually doing modeling classes at the local community centre, and I had to tag along with her one day because Mum said she couldn't walk by herself. So I went, and then they were practicing for their graduation, and one of the girls was sick, so I filled in just as a filler. Didn't know what I was doing. I was just having fun and probably just annoying everyone because I was younger. But then the teacher actually noticed that I had a great walk, and she called me the Asian Naomi Campbell. So then I just started doing modeling as well with my sister. I think I was, I'm going to say like 13, 14, something like that, maybe even younger. So I just started doing modeling there. And then back in the day, we didn't have, everyone is a model now with Instagram. Everyone can be their own agent and get their own work. Back in the day, I'm only 165 centimeters. So back in the day, before there was a lot of inclusions with looks, sizes, skin color, I was a short Asian trying to do modeling in Australia. So for me, there wasn't many opportunities. I found more success in the film world, so doing commercials, TV commercials, local films, those kind of roles, as opposed to the walking catwalk stuff, because again, I was too short. From there, I actually opened my own modeling agency and school. So that's how I got into the modeling world, and then I also started Kalgoorlie Fashion Week, so I'm really into that.
Just go back to the modeling school. What did you do there? Step back.
Reverse. So that's called Model Camp Australia. And a couple of years ago, I actually sold it to one of my previous students. So that was a nice full circle to hand it on to the next generation. So the modeling school, I taught kids from the age of 4, and it wasn't it was a grooming school, but it was also more of like a confidence building school, and just to teach mostly young girls to come out of their shell and just give them some confidence.
I might be oversimplifying, but don't you just have to put one foot directly in front of the other and not move your arms?
Absolutely not. You need to, your core job as a model is to be a human coat hanger. So you need to be able to sell the clothes. So if you're just walking one foot in front of the other and you're not connecting with the crowd and you're not interacting with what you're wearing or the accessories, you're not going to sell, and the designer's not going to be happy. So it's actually quite hard. And I found after many photo shoots, because you're doing these weird poses and you're using all these muscles you never thought you didn't even know you had. So the next day you're actually quite sore and you're like, oh, why does it hurt under here? It's because you're posing like this for the photo. So it's quite strenuous. It's not an easy job. It's much harder than just standing there and looking pretty. I can tell you that much. And it's mostly waiting around as well.
So what was your next venture?
After the modeling school?
Yeah.
Yeah, so after the modeling school, that's when I actually bought a motorhome. Me and my husband bought a motorhome, and we had plans to renovate it. So that's probably been about a year now. But it's just been back-to-back bookings, so we haven't had a chance to even touch any renovating, which is not a bad thing. So we're grateful for that. So we did the motorhome, and I also bought into KMD Books. So it's a publishing house based in Western Australia, in the deep south of Rockingham. That's your stomping ground.
With KMD and Karen McDermott.
Yeah, so Karen, shout out to Karen who connected us. So I work closely with Karen, and I head the children's division called Little K Books. So I've published 2.5 books myself. I say and a half because my daughter published a book called The Adventures of a FIFO Kid. So I oversaw that project. She's very independent and doesn't take on any advice or feedback from anyone because she knows exactly what she wants. So I helped her with that a little bit. But yeah, published 2 books of my own, The FIFO Wives' Tales and Love, Bruises and Bullshit. All
right, well, we'll get onto them shortly. But what did you do after KMD? Because you're a shareholder there and active in that. What else are you doing?
I'm a full-time mom. And I also have a female wellness center that I just opened up maybe 6 months ago. So that's based in Wellness Center.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I opened that up about 6 months ago with my sister and one of my friends from high school. And we accommodate, it's called We Gather because we're gathering like-minded women who are interested in yoga. We have a retail section there as well that stores only locally made products, Australian-made stuff as well, not just WA. And we do 3D baby ultrasounds there as well. Within that space, that business is called the Bub Society. So that's one that I've opened with my sister as well. 6 months ago, we launched at the same time as We Gather Studio. And yeah, we get to see cute little 3D babies. Yes, I'm a bit of an overachiever, if you like, but I'm very motivated and I think I get bored really easily. So I'm like, okay, what next?
So are you actively involved with it? Where do you say it is? It's in Morley.
It's in Morley, yeah, across the road from the Galleria. I'm actively involved. I do the scans as well alongside my sister, and sometimes I'm in the retail store as well, or hosting the workshops that we do, because we do creative workshops like painting, for example, or we do mummy and me massages. So we're very inclusive of, a lot of different genres across the women's space, the woman's space. Women.
I guess
ladies.
So you don't have one like that for men, is that?
Not yet, but we do allow men to come in. It's not like, no, women only. My husband actually facilitates meditation sessions there. And he's a guy, so he's a male host, and a lot of his participants are male. So it is a welcoming space, but we cater like mostly to women because that's the services we provide.
All right. So what's next on the agenda? What's your next venture? Which you might have. So I'm jumping the gun a bit here, but you can talk. What other entrepreneurial things do you have going at the moment? Or
I'm also helping my husband with because he just finished his 5 years studying for his Masters of psychotherapy, one of them, something psycho. He needed to go study how to deal with me. So now that he's finished studying, he's had a counseling practice for about 3 years now. So I'm helping him push that and elevate that. I like to say,
what as a psychology, is it? So what's he doing? You don't seem to know what your husband's doing.
Yeah, so he does psychology.
Oh, he's doing psychology,
counseling, and he's also started, well, he's been doing it for a few years now, doing hypnosis therapy, so past life regressions.
It's a joke. How does it make you feel that he's doing psychology?
Anytime he says that, we have a swear jar and he has to put $1 in.
I think it should be more than that.
Yeah. This is true.
Yeah, I always think with psychologists is that when they say that, I think you don't have to do anything. You just sit there on the chair and just keep repeating that.
Yeah.
I think, is that a real job,
Yeah, it's definitely a real job that comes with a lot of its own trauma because you're taking on everyone's generally low vibrational energy. So you're taking that on, right? So they're transferring the energy to you. So my mum, because he's got the gift of the gab, like no one can get a word in, which is quite funny. My mum says, do you even let your clients talk? But he's actually like quite quiet. Like he's obviously has to listen to them in the session. So he's quite toned down in terms of how much he talks. So maybe if I need him to stop talking, I might just go in as a client so I can do the talking for once.
No, you make a good point, is that, when somebody's going to a psychologist, they're normally coming from a bad place.
Yeah, and they just want to be heard. So.
A lot of baggage,
Yeah.
You don't get Mr. Happy walking through the door.
No, you don't.
Or Mr.
This sunlight's making me very shiny.
You what?
It's just my vanity talking. The light, the sun, is making me look shiny.
Looks like you got a third eye.
I know. Maybe it's opening.
Yeah, that's exactly. It looks like it's new, getting bigger. How does that make you feel? Can't help saying that. Yeah. So tell us. Jump into your book. So one was you did was called the FIFO Wives, and your daughter did one called what?
The Adventures of a FIFO Kid. The Adventures of a FIFO Kid. Yeah. So we started our FIFO journey over a decade ago. So my husband was previously, I guess he still is, he just hasn't done it in a while, coded boilermaker, so a welder, and he worked predominantly offshore. So my daughter was quite younger then, so it was just a matter of educating her and explaining to her or trying to get her to understand what FIFO means and like why dad keeps leaving for 3 weeks at a time, and just reassuring her that he still loves you, he's not leaving you, he's just going to work. So just teaching her that. So from there, when we signed on with KMD Books, Karen said, what's the first book? So I said, she asked me, what's a topic that I know like the back of my hand? So I said FIFO. I think FIFO is there wasn't any books on FIFO when we wrote that. So it was a very good niche and it was much needed. And I'm a part of a few FIFO support groups on Facebook. And everyone just wanted help and everyone wanted advice. And they wanted to know, is my situation normal? Is this just me going through this? Like anyone that feels isolated? Am I the anyone that is doing this shit alone? Are we allowed to swear? I don't know.
You can only give a shit if you swear.
Okay, perfect. Because that's my second language. Yeah, so I wanted to create, I guess you could call it a Bible for other wives and girlfriends, or even, husbands have picked up this book and have said, this book is so well written, it's helping me understand what my wife is actually talking about when she complains about all these things. Because when you hear from your wife or your mom, it's just like nag, like you're not going to listen to it. But when you hear it from someone else's perspective and you're looking from the outside in, you're like, oh shit, that's pretty hardcore that they're doing that alone. So like in the books we have trigger warning, we have topics about like miscarriages and affairs and drinking abuse, alcohol abuse, substance abuse. So to see it from the wife's point of view and to see how they struggle, and then the husbands are like, oh, okay, now I know what they're talking about and maybe I can act differently, and like vice versa as well. So we had some of the females, not only were they staying at home as the like stay-at-home mum, they were also working on site. So we had stories from women who were actually in the red dirt doing this and that, and they were met with sexual assault, attempted sexual assaults and that kind of stuff. So it's just really good for everyone to see everyone's perspective in one book. And we also had a daughter's perspective as well of her parents, working away. So it's just good just to read everyone's perspective in one book and really understand that we're not alone in this lifestyle. Yes, it's a lifestyle that we choose. It's a sacrifice that we're making so that when dad is home, we have 3 weeks straight with him 24/7. And it's a lifestyle that works for most FIFO families if they have the right foundation down, because it's not for everyone. And a lot of people see it as a quick money grab, but they don't understand the mental health issues that are aligned with that. So my husband actually, I sound like all I talk about, my husband, but he's actually a counsellor that specialises in FIFO guys, because he's done both. He's been on the tools. Yeah, exactly. So he's relatable, and that's what a lot of people don't have. There's not much support up there. Sure, there's a number on the wall that says, call me if you're feeling sad, but who's going to call? No one's going to call. So then they take their frustration, their anger, and their isolation out. Sorry?
Yeah, sorry, we died there.
Oh, you're cutting out. You're frozen.
We're fading in and out. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, it's fading.
Yeah, so what? So your daughter, how old was she when you explained that dad goes on FIFO?
Oh, 8. So she was... No, she's 8 now. So when before she was born, he was already going away. So she didn't really understand properly that he was leaving until she was like 2 or 3. So it was always a big cry as he was leaving to the taxi, because she knew that meant that he was going for a while. But I was lucky that I had my community around me, my community in terms of like my mom, my sisters, friends, and other FIFO families as well. So she was always entertained and always busy, and most importantly, always loved and always seen and had that attention. So it didn't affect her too much. And with FIFO for us, we had our plan, we had our end goal. We said, this is how long we're doing it for, this is what we're saving, and this is what we're doing when we get the money. We didn't get trapped in they call it the FIFO, what do they call it? The FIFO wheel, where you're spending above your wage, and you buy this mortgage, and you have this jet ski and boat and all these other stuff, but you have to keep working because you have to pay all these loans off now that you've created all these debt. Yeah. So I'm quite frugal with my money. I'm good at not overspending. I'm not into the designer bags. I'm not into all this fancy stuff. It's not that I can't afford it. I just don't find it necessary. I think I'm pretty secure in my achievements, that I don't need to have a Louis Vuitton bag to say that I'm successful. No shade if you do like that. That's just what you like. But for me, I'd rather invest my money back into a business or something that will continue, generational wealth. I'm trying to build something for my legacy. I came from zero, zilch. I had nothing. My mum had 6 kids on her own. We were living in a Homeswest house, so all we had for dinner was rice. If we were lucky, we had chicken wings. But we just had rice and fish sauce for dinner every other night, living paycheck to paycheck, and I meant paycheck to paycheck, government payout to government payout. So I've been there, and I've had nothing, and it's not fun. Obviously, it's not fun. So I definitely didn't want that for my children. So I also come from a background of domestic violence as well. So for me, it was important to break the cycle of poverty, break the cycle of domestic abuse, and just create. My mum, her English is her second language, so the conversation wasn't something that came first nature to her. So we didn't really have an open communication relationship, and she was constantly working as well. She's a chef. So I wanted to make sure that I was there physically for my children and mentally for my children. So I had to, just block out all that childhood trauma, not let it pass on to the next generation and be like, no, that's enough. The trauma stops with me. I'm going to build a stable foundation for my kids. Sure, I'm a little crazy, but we're all a little crazy. But for them, I'm a good mom. I can say that.
Great. I was just coming back to something you touched on earlier with your husband's practices, and he talks about the women who were on FIFO.
Yeah.
And about the sexual abuse and harassment that actually goes on mine sites. Because a couple of things sprang to mind while you were talking about it. One is, let's say, all of the big mines actually said, yeah, we acknowledge it, and we're really trying hard, to address it, okay?
Yeah.
Tick.
Exactly, yeah. And that's what they do with mental health as well. They're like, oh, yeah, let's do one day of painting a tree blue, and we've acknowledged mental health. So actually, a lot of the women, and there was a girl that wrote in the book anonymously because her job was threatened, her life was threatened. She was silenced. They didn't want her to speak about it. Even when she first reported it, they tried to silence her, and then they obviously don't say it so straightforward, but they'll do things that make you feel uncomfortable that you just choose to quit because the supervisors don't want to hear about it. Sometimes it is the supervisors. So actually, when the book came out, it came out at the same time as the BHP allegations. So we had a huge spread in the newspaper. I just spat. We had a huge spread in the newspaper alongside the BHP allegations. And after that article came out, there was a lot of change that happened on site. It's not massive change, but it's still a start. So they created an app, or they released an app where you mark once you're in your room safe or something like that. They installed the keychain locks on all the doors. They moved all the female rooms to the front. So because some were scattered out in the back, so they moved them all to the front, and then they would have chaperones to chaperone you back to your room. Yeah, but that's kind of looking at the problem. It's preventative, but I mean, like, that's not the cause of the problem.
I agree, that's preventative. I think also for the women, I'm getting a bit off topic. This is a book show, but I mean, is that recently they finally got that sex offender guy, I forget his name now, Botham or something, or they arrested him again. He was sexually abusing all of these young girls, like in the 80s and the 90s, and they tracked him down in Italy.
Okay. Wow.
I'm trying to think what his name is now. He was convicted recently. They found him in Italy, and there was the whole thing on the radio about how they tracked him down and they brought him back. I mean, there's only like 2 or 3 women who actually raised it, investigative journalist guys with these cops, and then eventually they took him to court, and he got 9 years, of which he's out in 5 years. I think. So I always feel a bit like the women who are in those situations. They look at those numbers and think, "What is that? It?
Exactly. What's the point in reporting?" Yeah. So and when you're on site, once you report, you become black marked. Once you go to apply for another job, it's okay. This girl causes problems. I know. It's always a thing.
Yeah, but if you're a boy, like he's a bit of a boy, That's
he was just having some fun. He was just flirting.
So tell me about your book. So the FIFO wives dealt with what it was like being a wife of somebody who was in FIFO, doing FIFO.
Yeah. Or if you worked away as well. So it was a book with different perspectives of people in the FIFO industry, and they were just sharing their experience, any hurdles that they had to climb over, and then how they dealt with that. And they also gave tips of how, like 3 tips they would suggest to someone starting out in the industry or someone who is already in the industry. And we also each person also wrote 3 misconceptions that people have about the industry. So when you think FIFO, you think cashed up. These are the 3 misconceptions are they're really rich, they can afford everything, let them pay for everything. Fact, you get taxed 40% of your income, and it's a big income, so 40% is a lot. And then, oh, my husband would never leave me, he loves our kids too much. It's not saying that the people working in FIFO don't love or will miss their kids. That's the sacrifice that they're doing for the family. And then the third one is, oh, if your husband works away, he's going to cheat on you. If he's going to cheat on you, he's going to cheat on you in Perth, okay? He doesn't need to go away to cheat on you.
He doesn't have to go to an oil rig.
No. So that's the 3 main misconceptions that we have that were a frequent topic in the book. But the book talks about the good, the bad, and the really ugly side of it all. But it's actually, we're not painting the FIFO lifestyle in a bad light at all. We're just showing this is our experience. This worked for us. This didn't work for us. See if it works for you.
Yeah, I think it's there's opportunities there for some other books to come out of that.
Absolutely. Everyone's asking when's the second one coming out. My husband's working on the guys one, but I don't know if he's going to do an anthology because it's going to be more from the mental health side, psychology, more like bigger words than we used, more technical.
Well, he may be interested in meeting. You mentioned the blue trees.
Yes.
And for all the listeners who don't know about it, the blue trees, those dark blue trees, you don't see them too much south of Perth, but you see them when you go north. They're on a farmer's thing, you see these dark blue trees, which is like, are you okay trees?
Yes. My brother's actually ambassador for BHP for the mental health Are You Okay trees. He did a speech sharing his, I don't want to say too much, but sharing his experience with mental health. So yeah, I'm very familiar with the blue trees, and it's a great initiative, but it needs to be more than that.
Is he familiar with the lady who started it?
I'm not sure.
She lives in over near in Serpentine.
Okay.
She's her. I bumped into her because I used to play polo cross, and I went over. She used to run like a polo cross place over there, so I went over to meet her and see what was going on. Yep. And then the fellow who introduced me, there's a big blue tree in their front yard, and someone said her father committed suicide.
Yeah, and other trees dead?
Oh yes, of course, they have to be dead.
Yeah, okay.
And then they painted that special blue color. They're all painted the same blue.
Yeah,
I don't know what it's called.
Them around Maylands.
Pardon?
I've seen a few of them around Maylands. The blue trees. Yeah.
If you go from here to Ningaloo, up north, you'll see a lot. Cool. You'll see a lot in the fields and that. So obviously they see a dead tree, they approach the farmer, and I don't know how they get up there, but they get all the way to the top.
They just throw the paint and hope it lands.
Maybe.
It's cool. It's visual. Our generation needs visual aids to understand a concept, so I think it works really well.
I think it's a very good point because, a lot of, particularly the millennials and they, first of all, the social media, they're very visual.
Yeah.
They don't, so, considering we're talking about books, a lot of them don't read too much.
No, but actually, you say that, but it's become trendy. I think books have become cool again because of TikTok. So there's a segment or a hashtag that trends, and it's called Book Talk. And if you actually go into Dimmicks and shops like that, they have a shelf that says, TikTok made me buy it, because your books are very viral on TikTok, and so everyone wants to read it. So that's the new gen, and books are becoming popular again, which is good for us.
That is really good. So you did the FIFO Wives.
Yes.
And the Adventures of a FIFO Kid.
Yes, The Adventures of a FIFO Kid talks about the importance of family time and activities that you can do when mom or dad is away, and how to keep yourself busy, how to keep yourself entertained, and just how to keep yourself happy. It's very cute.
So if I just come back, so what's your next project? Is it going to be FIFO Wives 2.0?
Yes, I'm definitely doing a follow-up of the FIFO Wives because so many women have reached out to me saying how much they loved the book, how much they appreciated being seen, how many stories they have of their own to share, and they want to know when the next one's coming out and to keep them in mind. So yeah, definitely doing another one, just a matter of when. I'm working on a TV show, hopefully, for the FIFO Wives. So I want to do a TV series based on the book. So each episode will be a different chapter. So we've applied for a grant for that. So fingers crossed for me that we get the grant so that project can move forward.
Okay.
So
I think that could be quite watchable.
Yeah, and it's very relevant to the Australian lifestyle, especially in WA. Everyone in WA knows someone in FIFO, knows someone who wants to get into FIFO, or knows someone who knows someone in FIFO. Like everyone people say FIFO, FIFO, I say FIFO.
But it's very much a WA thing, though, isn't it?
Very much, and Queensland. So it's mostly WA
Queensland.
and Queensland. Yeah, but a lot of East Coast people, especially Melbourne, Sydney, relocate to Perth, especially during the COVID lockdowns, because the flying back and forth and the quarantine just wasn't worth going back home. So we had workers staying here without their family for like nearly a year without seeing them because they have 3 weeks off, 2 weeks off mostly. You have to quarantine, I think it was 14 days back then.
Yeah,
so there's just no point in going home, So yeah, most families relocated to Perth, Western Australia.
I heard the other one is that they got short of guys on the mine because a lot of guys came from the eastern side and FIFO'd here for 5 years to make their money and then went back. But when everything shut, they all got jobs over there and never came back.
Yeah, and they also saw a big loss of staff because a lot of them didn't want to, let's not get political, but a lot of them didn't want to get their vaccines. So that also created some staff shortage as well.
Hey, you get on to like the fun topic, conspiracy theorists and all that,
No, we're not going there.
Oh, I like to. I mean, people have asked me, like my conspiracy theorist friends, how many times have I been vaccinated? Well, I've been vaccinated 4 times. And they say, have you had COVID? And I say, yes. And they say, see, that didn't work. They've got to explain the reason you have the injection is so you don't get put on it later.
You're cutting out.
And then you're back. Because I explain them there's 5 stages. There you're back. So there's 5 stages. This one's called being on a ventilator death. Right. So you don't want to get to stage 4, So anyway.
It's cutting out.
So tell me what's so yeah, I know I get banned a lot. But it's very difficult to be appropriate, all the time.
I know. If the cameras weren't here, I'm sure we would have an unfiltered conversation.
But so, what will you do in FIFO Wives 2.0? What will you do differently or additionally to what you did in the first book?
I think each chapter and each story and each experience was so different anyway. So I think even if we did the exact same format, obviously switching it up a little bit, it would still be so different because everyone's experience is completely different to the last person. Sure, there's themes that intertwine with each other and stories kind of overlap, but no one's experience is exactly the same. So I think it will still be interesting in that way. Maybe we can switch it up and remix it a bit and do something like dating a guy in FIFO and like some horror stories. Because if you meet someone on Tinder and you get along with them, you're enjoying their company, but they're like, I'm only here for half the year. Is that a relationship you would pursue? Is that what you would want for yourself from the beginning? So a lot of women and men on both sides struggle with finding relationships when they're in FIFO, because when you're away, it's hard to establish that strong unity that, you know, makes a relationship survive in those kind of, in that lifestyle. So if you were already with them and you already established that common ground and you know each other in and out, and then you went and worked away, I think it's easier. But if you're still trying to figure someone out, but you can't see them, it's a bit harder. And long distance relationships, I guess they work for some people, I guess not, but there could be some fun, interesting stories around dating a FIFO person.
I think with your husband, with his psychology, is that because with what I do, being an IT all my life, is that data analysis is a biggie. But be interesting to get to do a survey of all the FIFO workers in WA and just see, okay, with a big questionnaire, is that what they actually think and feel. I can't think. Building the survey is a task, a specialized task all of its own, to see what they actually think, how they struggle. You know, we touch on mental health, but is it one? But sorry, jumping back to something you said earlier, your childhood.
Yeah.
Okay, it wasn't all
glitzy and glamour. No.
No, it doesn't seem so. You know?
No. But so, and that's what's crazy, because I've always just been like this confident person that was very sure of herself and very sure of whatever project I was taking on, or just risk taking and all that, which is not a common characteristic to have from where I came from, how I grew up. But I just decided from the very beginning that I'm not going to continue the cycle. So I should be much more fucked than I am.
But isn't that a topic for a book about growing up in that situation?
Yeah. So that's my second book that I did was Love, Bruises and Bullshit. So that's a similar concept to the FIFO lifestyle.
Slow up again. Start up again.
The second book I did was called Love, Bruises and Bullshit. And it's a similar concept where it's an anthology. So every chapter was from a different experience from someone who has experienced domestic violence. So I shared some of my story in that, but it was just one chapter. Maybe when I confront my demons a little bit more, then I'll be ready to talk about that. It might be therapy for me, but I don't know. For now, I'm like, I don't want to fix what's not broken. So I can just leave it in the back here for now. It's definitely a good topic.
So we got to wait for that to come to the fore.
Yeah, I've done a few talks about it, about like, you know, domestic violence and growing up with that kind of stuff, but finding my way out of it. And I had a few women saying like, you know, I left my husband who was doing this, that, and the other to me, and I had kids and they saw what you saw. So I'm just like hopeful that they can turn out normal like you. They don't know that I'm not normal, but yeah, hopeful that there is a chance that they won't be screwed up.
Well, normal's a bit of a gradient, isn't it? So,
yeah. What is normal?
Yeah, so normal's a gradient. It's not like a pass mark. It's not like if you're above the line, above 50, you're okay. Below, not so good.
So where am I on that line?
Pardon?
Where am I on that line?
I don't know. You are quite confident, I must say. When I met you in Melbourne, I was actually scared, a bit scared, I must admit.
I love that.
Maybe I was intimidated. There we go. Yeah. So are you going to do more of these? I'm looking for you to actually write a fiction story. I think you're sitting on, maybe because I'm a fiction writer myself, is that you seem to be sitting on a bucket load of fictions, potential non-fiction that you could turn to fiction. Because you know how you write a fiction story. You start off with non-fiction and then you lie.
Yeah. So actually, a couple of the chapters in the books that I did, I actually had to write because like they didn't have any writing skills. One of the subjects, her sister was actually murdered by her ex-partner, and she just didn't have the heart or the energy to write it. So I actually interviewed her, and then I wrote the chapter, dramatized it, and it was actually quite fun. Like I did get a little bit of a bug or a buzz about, creating story. Not that I created the story, but, just creating the story and the structure and just putting it all together. So that was very fun. I do have an idea that I have been like in the back of my mind for a while. Obviously, I don't want to say it here. I'm not ready to be accountable yet.
You're not ready to share.
No, I'm not ready to be held accountable. Still toying on the idea, but I just need. I'm a fast writer, so I wrote those chapters in 3 hours, easy, one chapter. I think there was about 3,000 words in each chapter, so it's very easy for me to write. Once I write, it's like, blah. So I write for Forbes as well. So I'm writing for Forbes Business Council. So writing for me is second nature. Talking, I'm a bit like, so I'm learning. I'm getting better at talking, I think.
What do you mean getting better at talking? You're not doing too badly today. Right?
Oh, yeah, I'm doing good today. Sometimes I just like overthink and mumble and just, I don't know, just freak out a little bit. But I'm definitely getting better. I'm doing a lot more public speaking, which is fun. And I think it's a space that I'm meant to be in. I have knowledge and experience in certain topics that I want to share with people, and I often do that on my Instagram account as well. So I share business tips, publishing tips, author tips on my socials. So I like sharing information, educating the next generation. I love doing that. But I will. You can hold me accountable of writing a fiction book in the next few years. Check back on me.
Next few years. Okay, maybe it could be waiting a while. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think you could have a good.
What genre do you see me writing?
I think it could be about growing. I mean, would you have seen yourself as a minority group?
Yeah. Like physically I am, but I never felt, obviously beside from the modeling industry, growing up in high school and that kind of stuff, I never felt like the odd one out. I never experienced racism, which I'm grateful for. But I also don't think that I look like the generic Asian. People don't know what I am. I'm full Asian. I'm not Eurasian. I get Eurasian a lot, but I'm actually full Asian. My mom, on the other hand, she experienced some racism, but she gives it straight back to them. Like she's very funny. I want to share a story. She was driving in Northbridge, and she was by herself, and then there was this group of kids, teenagers driving, and they were just like, F you to her. And then she chased them in the car, and she's like, what you say? Because she can't speak English properly, right? So she's like, what you say? F me? Come and F me then, motherfucker. So she's like, it's so funny. So she experienced, because they were like, you Asian, this, that, whatever. So she was like, just gave it back to them. So my mom experienced some racism, but yeah, I never experienced any racism. But minority wise, I don't know. I never felt like it, but on paper, I am the minority of, nowadays, no. In WA, it's so multicultural. It's great. My daughter's school, in her class, she literally only has 2 Caucasian kids in her class, and the rest are diverse. For me, I was the only 2 Asian kids, and then the rest were Caucasian, So it's very different world we're in now, and it's great. It's good for my kids to see a mixed race class, because they are mixed race,
Well, I think we're all mixed race.
Yeah, exactly. No one is pure blood anymore.
Yeah, I know. I've also set up my DNA recently to Ancestry. See where I think I'm Irish Scottish, but anyway, we'll see what it actually comes back to.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. I think it's going to be interesting. But I think you could be onto something, because this topic of racism is all, having lived in South Africa for a number of years.
Yeah,
is that racism is a big issue. Now America's a big issue, but when you travel a lot in Africa as a white person, is that it's not an issue. It's not an issue. I mean, I've worked in Angola, all the other places, Tanzania, Kenya, Malawi, and all the bits in between, and it's not an issue. You're there to do a job, you do it, and you leave. Yeah, so it's only in certain countries, where it becomes an issue. But it's actually good to see here in WA that it's not an issue. But I'm looking forward to see a fiction book come out of you about growing up here into what was sort of actually relatively poor circumstances and how you rose above that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Thanks for the hot tip.
I'll hold you to that one. All right.
I'll write a special note for you in there.
Thank you very much. I look forward to the next book launch.
Yeah.
When we get to see that. I'll clap. I'll clap a lot.
Clap. Okay.
Big clap. All right. I think sorry, Yasmin, carry on.
Am I frozen?
Yeah, you are frozen. Yeah.
That's a great face.
Yeah, it looks like you're looking down. I don't know what's going on there, but I think it's a good face to close on.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks so much for taking the time to chat to me.
Yeah, it's been wonderful.
Really enjoy your company. It's always a good time around you.
Yeah, we always have fun. All righty.
Yeah. All right. See you soon.
Take care, eh? Cheers, eh?
Bye.
Bye.